I still remember the exact moment it all began, like a punch I saw coming too late to dodge. I was by the office coffee machine, adding a splash of oat milk to my cup, when Darren Cole walked in. Tall, smug, and every inch the freshly minted CEO he thought he was born to be. He was also the son of Marcus Cole, the man who built this company from a garage into a multimillion-dollar consultancy. Darren didn't greet me. Didn't smile. Just looked at me like I was the broken printer no one had bothered to replace. Evan, he said flatly, my office. Now. Not a request. A command. He turned and walked off without waiting. I had been with Colbridge Strategies for 11 years. I built the client services department from the ground up. Closed over 100 contracts. Mentored half the current floor. But none of that mattered to Darren. He saw legacy as a birthright, not something you earned. I followed him, pulse rising. He didn't sit down. You're fired, he said. No emotion. Just a flat decree. We don't need dead weight dragging us down. I blinked. Excuse me? You heard me. He was flipping through papers like he was picking lunch options. Clear your desk. Effective immediately. No reason. No discussion. Just, gone. I didn't argue. Didn't cry. I just smiled. A small, deliberate thing. Understood, I said. Have a good day, Darren. I walked past the desks I helped fill with talent. Past the junior analysts I'd coached through their first nervous presentations. Some of them started to stand. Eyes wide, confused. I gave a subtle shake of the head. Don't. Not now. Packing took 10 minutes. Driving home took 20. Processing it all. I still haven't finished. 11 years. I gave Colbridge more than I gave my marriage. Missed anniversaries, birthdays, funerals, because I believed in the mission. Believed in Marcus's vision. And I was dismissed like I was nothing, but strangely, I wasn't angry. Not yet. I was curious why. That question echoed through my sleepless night. At 9:03 a.m. the next morning, my phone rang. Unknown number. I let it ring. But curiosity beat caution. Evan, it's Marcus. His voice hit me like cold water. I just walked into the office, he continued, and I could hear the tension in his throat. Why the hell did you leave? I exhaled slowly. Your son fired me. Silence. He said I was lazy. Unnecessary. I heard papers shuffle. A sharp inhale. Then, did he read your contract? I frowned. What are you talking about? He's supposed to finalize the Kingswell deal today, right? Yeah. The meeting's at 11. Jesus Christ. More frantic rustling. Then a thud. Evan, your contract has a clause, one I personally put in after the Steelgrove disaster. You're not just the account lead. You're the only person authorized to close Kingswell. The clause is airtight. He can't legally finalize that deal without you. I froze. The realization hit hard. Darren hadn't read it. He fired me without even knowing what I held. Suddenly, the balance of power shifted. At 10:13 a.m., my phone buzzed again. Darren. I let it go to voicemail. 2 minutes later, reception, then legal, then accounting. I sat on the couch, sipping cold coffee, watching my phone explode with panic. The voicemail light blinked like a warning. I tapped play. Evan, hey, listen. There's been a bit of a misunderstanding. Things moved too fast yesterday. We need you back in today. It's urgent. Please call me. Urgent. Not sorry. Panic masked in politeness. To 10:32, a familiar name flashed across the screen. Natalie. Former colleague. Now in marketing. We were close once. I picked up. You won't believe what's happening, she whispered. Marcus just tore Darren apart. In the boardroom. In front of everyone. I sat up. He slammed your contract on the table and asked, did you even read this before firing Evan? Darren tried to bluff, talked about restructuring and a fresh direction. But Marcus didn't buy it. He flipped to the clause. The one you always mentioned. About you being the only authorized negotiator. I let out a low laugh. How? Did Darren take it? Like a ghost. He realized he just tanked the Kingswell deal. Marcus said, if we lose this, your role becomes negotiable. I thanked her quietly and hung up. The power had shifted, and this time, I wasn't the one holding the short end at 11:15 a.m., a new message lit up my phone. From Marcus Evan, I'm sincerely sorry. I misjudged the situation. Please come in, not just for the deal, but so we can talk. I wasn't ready to forgive. But I was ready to take back control. I typed slowly, I'll consider finalizing Kingswell. But only under certain conditions. I'd like to meet with you alone beforehand at by noon. I was dressed and walking through Colbridge's main lobby, not the employee entrance. A deliberate move, the receptionist nearly stood at attention. Mr. Blake. Mr. Cole is expecting you. The office was quiet as I passed. Heads turned. Conversations paused. Tension filled the air. Marcus stood by his door. No smile, Evan, he said. Thank you for coming. Inside, he didn't sit behind his desk. He leaned against the door and exhaled. I made a mistake, he said. A big one. I gave my son too much power too fast. I thought he needed to learn. But not like this. I waited. What he did to you was unacceptable. He jeopardized a deal we spent half a year building. Your contract, you're the only name on that deal. I know, I replied, I'd like to offer your job back. With autonomy over Kingswell. Whatever terms you need, we'll meet them. I nodded slowly. Revised contract. Written authority. No interference from Darren. Done. One more thing, I added. This doesn't happen again. Not to me. Not to anyone. He nodded solemnly. You have my word. At 1 p.m., the boardroom was ready. The Kingswell team had arrived. I reviewed the papers twice. Everything matched. Everything was prepared. Their CEO, Mr. Salim, didn't tolerate chaos. I greeted him in Arabic when he arrived. His face broke into a rare smile. You remembered, he said. Respect travels well, I answered. Asterisk. As the meeting began, I caught Darren pacing outside the glass walls. Like a trapped animal. Marcus intercepted him. Their words weren't audible, but the gesture was to at one point. Marcus raised a hand. Darren froze, red-faced, humiliated. He looked at me through the glass. And then, he walked away. That was the last I saw of him that day. 2 hours later, the deal was done. Signed. Sealed. Celebrated. Marcus pulled me aside. You saved us. I owe you more than an apology. You owe this company leadership. I replied. The kind that knows the difference between power and responsibility. He didn't argue. By the following week, the Kingswell deal had made industry headlines. Colbridge secures historic partnership through strategic diplomacy and multilingual insight. They didn't name me, but everyone at Colbridge knew. The inbox messages came in waves: quiet thanks, praise from former skeptics, acknowledgement from juniors I once coached. The office mood shifted. Lightened. Marcus announced Darren was being reassigned indefinitely. Not fired. But sidelined. I wasn't naive. Men like Darren don't vanish. They regroup, but I was no longer worried. I knew now exactly what I brought to the table, and after 11 years of building other people's legacies, it felt damn good to finally protect my own. The next few days were quieter than I expected. No more frantic calls, no more emergency emails. Ryan was still around. I saw his name in system logs, saw his office light flicker on late at night, but he was invisible in every real sense. Mr. Cole had made it clear during our follow-up meeting that Ryan's responsibilities were being reassessed. The board hadn't made anything public yet, but it was only a matter of time. I wasn't the only one who noticed the change. People stopped whispering when I walked into a room. My opinion was suddenly valued at meetings where I used to be Sidelined, but silence, I've learned, is never empty. It's loaded. Watching. Waiting. On Friday, I opened my expense report system and noticed something strange. A flag submission from my recent trip, a hotel stay that had always been covered in full, was now under review. A minor thing, but it didn't sit right then. Came the missing login credentials. I was locked out of the Kingswell database for an hour before IT fixed it. Next, a scheduled call with our legal liaison was mysteriously rescheduled without my approval and only reinstated after I emailed from my personal account, CCing Mr. Cole directly. None of it was big enough to sound alarms. But it was enough to send a message. And I knew exactly where it was coming from. Ryan wasn't gone. He was regrouping. I met Mr. Cole in his office on Monday morning. I didn't schedule the meeting, he did. Liam, he said, using my name with the kind of gravity that made my spine straighten. We need to discuss the Kingswell expansion phase. I nodded, folding my arms. What's the problem? Not a problem, he said, then hesitated. A complication. Ryan filed a motion with legal to be reinstated as oversight on all international accounts. I stared at him. He what? He claims that since you technically report to him, I don't. Not under the revised terms you signed 2 weeks ago. I know, Mr. Cole said quickly. But he's trying to challenge the language. This wasn't about procedure. This was about power. A last-ditch grasp for relevance. I'm not here to play chess with your son, I said flatly. I didn't come back to this company to get tangled in games. I came back to close Kingswell, and I did. Mr. Cole leaned forward. Then what do you suggest? I didn't hesitate. Strip Ryan of his executive privileges. Make it official. The board needs to know his influence is suspended. He exhaled slowly. You realize what you're asking? I do, I said. But if he's allowed to keep pulling strings in the dark, it's only a matter of time before this company starts bleeding people. I won't be one of them. There was a long silence. Then Mr. Cole nodded once. I'll draft the vote. The meeting took place 2 days later. I wasn't invited, of course. But word spread quickly. Ryan tried to defend his actions as protecting company assets. He claimed I was trying to consolidate power. Someone on the board asked how removing someone who single-handedly secured the largest contract in company history equated to protection. It didn't take long after that at 4:15 p.m., a company-wide memo went out, effective immediately. Ryan Cole has stepped down from his position as Executive Director of Operations to pursue other opportunities. A neat, PR-safe package. But everyone knew the truth. I sat at my desk, reading the message 3 times before leaning back in my chair. It was done. The days that followed were a blur of handshakes and polite congratulations. Internally, I was promoted to Senior Partner of Strategic Accounts, a title that had never existed before, but came with full autonomy, direct access to the board, and the clearest message yet: you're no longer just part of the company. You're shaping it. I didn't feel triumphant. Not really. What I felt was justified, not because I wanted to crush anyone, but because I knew, after everything I'd built, every deal I'd closed, every night I'd worked late while others went home, that I had earned the right to not be treated like furniture someone could throw out on a whim. People don't remember loyalty until you make them regret losing it. I never wanted revenge, I wanted recognition. Now I had both. A month passed, contracts were signed. Kingswell was moving fast, faster than projected, and the board was already greenlighting the next international expansion, based entirely on the model I'd built. I was leading that, too. At the annual strategy summit, I was asked to speak. Something Ryan had done every year in the past. As I stepped onto the stage, I glanced at the front row. Mr. Cole sat there with an unreadable expression. There was pride, maybe. But more than that, there was something else: understanding. I told the story of Kingswell. Not just the deal, but the quiet parts, the trust, the missteps, the almost failures. The turning point, and I ended with this: success doesn't come from being the loudest in the room. It comes from knowing your worth, standing your ground when it matters, and refusing to be erased. If you do the work, and you do it well, the only signature that matters will eventually be your own. The applause was louder than I expected. Maybe louder than I needed. But it didn't feel empty. It felt earned. The glow of victory didn't last long. A week after the summit, I noticed a discrepancy in the Kingswell logistics report, a minor figure, but off by exactly $12,384.72. Too specific to be a typo. I flagged it to finance, expecting a prompt explanation. Instead, I got silence. 2 days later, my expense report was flagged. Then, 2 contracts I'd sent for legal review vanished from the tracking system. IT told me it was a syncing error. That's when I knew Ryan might have been exiled from decisions, but he wasn't gone. Not completely. Someone was still in his corner, someone on the inside. Sabotage doesn't require a position. Just access. I started keeping duplicates. Backups. Screenshots. I sent copies of every revision to my personal archive, quietly, carefully. Just like I'd once built the client services department from scratch, I was now rebuilding my defense. This wasn't paranoia, this was experience. I took my findings to Mr. Cole. He listened, quietly, but his face was hard to read. These are serious accusations, he said, carefully. I know, I replied. But I don't bring accusations. I bring proof. I slid a printed report across the table. The altered ledger entries. The metadata showing edits from a user who hadn't officially logged in for over a month, and the clincher, an anonymous server log that traced back to Ryan's home IP address. Mr. Cole didn't say a word for several seconds. Then, why didn't you come to me sooner? I had to be sure, I said. You trusted him once. I needed you to trust me now. He leaned back, exhaling sharply. You're not just rebuilding this company, I added. You're cleaning up its bloodline. He gave a bitter laugh. At that, you're right. And just like that, the last of Ryan's influence was severed. His server access terminated. His final champion, a mid-tier compliance officer, dismissed with a quiet exit package. The Cole family may have built the company, but now, it was surviving on different bones. Mine, when the board offered me the title of Chief Strategic Officer, I hesitated. I'd never cared for the politics of titles. They were usually just shields people used to avoid accountability, but this one felt different. The IT wasn't just about prestige, it was about presence. Influence. A seat at the table where decisions happened before they were announced, I said. Yes. On one condition, I want oversight, I told Mr. Cole. Over hiring. Over training. Not just the big contracts, the culture. We can't build legacy on silence and favoritism. He nodded. You have full authority, he said. Build it your way. And I did. I revised onboarding to include transparency policies. Rebuilt the mentorship program with real metrics. Made internal mobility possible for the overlooked, the quiet ones like me who had once worked through lunch, through weekends, through personal collapse. We didn't advertise these changes. But people noticed. They stayed later. Smiled more. Trusted faster, because real leadership isn't loud. Its systemic epilogue, ink doesn't fade. A year later, Ryan still hadn't returned to the industry. I heard he'd moved out of state. Started some kind of consultancy that he never called. Never emailed. Never apologized, and that was fine. He'd written me off once, convinced that people like me, quiet, loyal, underestimated, could never be threats, but he forgot something. The most dangerous kind of professional isn't the one shouting orders, it's the one with patience, with receipts, and with the right to sign the last deal, alone.